Talk about shifting the worry curve and what that means.
So it's really great if you get a chance to look at it in the book, or you can go to our website and download the white paper as well. But it's better when you see it visually. But shifting the worry curve is philosophically is this. Most people have this tendency of, we don't need to plan. We got plenty of time. The deadline's a year off in the future. I can do anything in a year. I got 5 other projects I'm working on right now. And so the analogy I like to use is, here at Acme Corporation, and I like to use Acme Corporation as my company because if you're of a certain age, you know that Acme Corporation is where the Wile E. Coyote bought all the stuff to get the Roadrunner, which never works. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. That's not germane to the story. Anyway, so I work for Acme Corporation, and here at Acme Corporation, we have no formal planning process. Everything's top priority. Just going to make it happen. And we have this kickoff meeting by the business unit vice president who spends 30 minutes talking about how important this project is. And you guys all know your jobs. Go make it happen. I want to see some real teamwork on this one, right? So when you walked into that meeting, you walked in with 5 projects already on your plate in various stages of completion. Some are just starting, some are in the middle, and some are going to hopefully be closing out soon. And 30 minutes later, you walk out of the meeting with project number 6 on your plate. Now, you've not been assigned any task. You just know you're on the team. And you know the deadline's a year in the future. So your level of worry about this project probably isn't very high, because you're more worried about the other 5 projects you've been getting beat up about for weeks or months. You've got something for those things due tomorrow and the next week and the next week. I got a year for this. There's no plan. There's been no talk about getting a plan. All I know is I'm on the team. I got a year. I'm going to get to it. My best intentions, I'm going to get to it. And so we start that off. We call that first phase uninformed optimism. I don't know enough to be scared. I just know I'm on the team and I got 12 months. We create life in about 9.5 months. I'm pretty sure I could do a project in 12, right? I used to say 9 months, and my life informed me it's not 9. So now it's longer than 9. We'll give it 9.5. So, and that's the first phase. But then what happens is about 3-4 months into the project, remember this is a year-long project, I still haven't been able to focus much attention to it. And my level of worry begins to rise. My gut's telling me, I haven't done anything in the last 3 months, and I probably should have gotten something done. This is where all the emails start to fly back and forth that all say the same thing, which is this project's in trouble, but it ain't my fault. This is when you see your teammate one of your teammates walking down the hallway, and you hope they don't bring up the project. And if they do bring up the project, what you also hope is they haven't worked on it either, because you haven't worked on it. And let's be honest, it's okay to be late on something, as long as somebody else is more late than you are. You just don't want to be most late. That's when you get really in trouble. So we call the second phase vague concern. My spidey sense is tingling, telling me something is awry, but I can't prove I'm late because I don't have a plan to measure it against. It's just my experience. My gut tells me we're in trouble. And then we move into the third and final phase of the project, which everybody knows is called the panic phase. And the panic phase is where you end up finishing the project late. It limps across the finish line. The quality suffers because you just put something out to get it out the door, and the costs go through the roof because you just throw money at it to get it done. This is where you air freight concrete block. You just do crazy things just to get it across the finish line. And so when the panic phase happens, nothing good happens because you waste money, you cut quality, and you probably still get it done late. So the idea behind shifting the worry curve is to say, look, I know you guys are busy with 5 other projects, and I know this is going to come across as crazy to you, but I need you to carve out 2-3 days, come with me, and let's pull everybody together. And this is going to save us. I hear what you're saying. And yeah, it's you could be doing real work. I get it. But the investment we make in this 2 or 3 days is going to solve so many questions, or answer so many questions, solve so many problems before they even have a chance to hurt us, and allow us to hit the deadline. And plus, by doing this, you'll know for this project when you've got time to go work on other things. And you'll know for this project what you've got to get done by a certain date, or you're going to be the headline of why we're late on the project. And that to do that might take only 2 or 3 days, but the benefit of that is so much greater than the costs involved. What we're doing, we're shifting the worry curve, and we're worrying earlier in the project as opposed to worrying later in the project.
Yeah, that upfront piece, so important, identifying what winning looks like, but also, as I'm translating it into my experience, we're identifying all of the known critical milestones, and getting people to take these on and come back with their own plans, and then piecing this thing together. Okay, now this is what's realistically possible. I believe in stretch, but realistic, not sandbagging.
Yep.
This concept of known unknowns and unknown unknowns, and building a flexible enough system to be able to address it. And this is challenging for me because every time you talk, I'm bouncing all through your book and thinking, oh my gosh, where do I want to go with this? There's so many places to go. But talk about that, having a system that can handle the stress of the known unknowns that we know are going to come up, but we'll figure it out, and the unknown unknowns.
Yeah. So, a plan, like we talked about earlier, a plan is never cast in stone. It's going to change over time. And so there are things I'll know at the beginning of a project that I don't know and I can plan for them, right? So one of those might be rain. Let's say this task happens outdoors and I can't work on it when it rains. So not only do I need 20 days, I need 20 dry days. Well, I don't know exactly at the beginning of planning. I don't even know when that task is going to happen yet. I got to get through all the planning first. And if it's summertime, it might rain more than if it's wintertime or vice versa. So we have to make our best guess. What does average rainfall look like annually at this location that we're going to be working in? Let's say it rains on average a day a week. Well, 20 days is 4 weeks. That's a 1 day a week for rain. So we're going to put 24 in to capture the 4 days, 4 extra days for the rain situation that comes up. But as we begin to work on the project and that task gets closer to us, now we find out we're in a rainy season. We need more time to get that task done. Or maybe it's a drought currently and we need less time to get that task done. So we're constantly looking at what's coming and making revisions. One of the things is we don't need to be perfect when we plan. That doesn't mean you could throw dart at a dartboard, but you got to get started with something and get rolling, and then we can make it perfect. The only perfect plan you ever have is the one that you've completed the project for, because now you know who got sick, how long they were out, et cetera. So one of the things we can count for, like weather, you can kind of build that in at the very beginning, right? The other thing you cannot count for is, like I said, we talked, I just mentioned it briefly, but basically, I know that on a project of any size or complexity, somebody's going to get sick. I don't know who, when, and for how long. So I can't plan for that in advance. But what can happen is if I have a plan that when Fred says, hey, my dad's sick, I got to go home for a while, I can look at all the things on Fred's plate, that 2-week window. If he's going to be gone for 2 weeks, I can say, well, what does Fred have in the next 2 weeks? Some of these are okay. They can be 2 weeks moved and it won't hurt us. But boy, this one task is actually on the critical path, or it's only 1 day away from being critical. So if Fred's gone for 2 weeks, it'll push us out. So then the question is, Fred, who can work on this task for you while you're gone? Here's a situation. I couldn't plan for it in advance, but I was able to address it once I found out what the issue was, right? And both of those were known unknowns, things I know that I don't know. The unknown unknown is something you could never plan for, is a catastrophe that happens. The plant you were getting stuff from, there was an earthquake in the region or a fire, whatever, destroyed it. Those are things you can't plan for. I did a project for we were building an ag tractor from the ground up. And this company's design process was basically a 4-pass process where they did prove design first. They would design it, build one proof design machine, do some testing on it, learn something from it. Then they would modify the design and build prototype machines, maybe 5 or 10 of those, and do more testing, maybe do some shake table tests, maybe bring a customer in to look at it, do some more refinements. Then they would build pilot machines, which is something they would actually sell to final customers at a reduced price. And this is in the ag industry, and they would do what they call field follow for a year. They would let the farmer have it for a year and then learn over the year what the problems were, make the corrective action, and then go to production. So the proof design machine usually has stuff on it that is one of a kind. You just made it just for this just to prove the design. And the company, the plant we're building it in was in DeKalb, Illinois. And so the tractor trailer truck delivering the transmission, the one of a kind transmission in the world for this, jackknifes, and the transmission rolls off and gets destroyed. I could promise you I did not have a backup plan for that happening in the project. Nobody would expect that to happen, right? You would have a plan that was just unwieldy if you made it for every single possible risk that could ever possibly happen. But that's okay. So what we did was we said, here's an unknown. We never saw this happening. So we sent one crew to the wreck site basically to get all the parts and see if there was some way they could cobble it back together, or at least enough to do our proof design. We didn't think that was going to work. So we had another group that went out and did a survey of the universe of transmissions that we could get and see if there's something we could modify to make it fit. And we didn't think that was going to work either. So we had a third one that went out and looked to see if there was something, like a third option we could do. And none of those worked. So we go back to management and say, listen, we know that you heard about what happened to the transmission, and we really need to push this project for a little bit. And in ag industry is interesting in that they have a selling window. And if you're going to miss that window, you need to go ahead and move you can release in the middle of winter. Nobody's going to buy it. So what's the point? And we said, we'd like to move it to the next selling window. And management, being very accommodating, said, absolutely not. You're not going to do that. We've already made announcements to the farmers. You got to hit the deadline. And my least favorite phrase in project management, make it happen. Make it happen is just code for you and I both know it's not going to work, but I'm going to hold you accountable for it anyway. So we went back and we were beating our head against the walls. And finally, somebody on the team, well, I wish I could say it was me, but it was not, said, we can make the deadline if we go from a 4-pass process to a 3-pass process. If we drop one of these 4 iterations, we can meet the deadline. So we looked at it. We said, what's the least risky one that we can drop? And went back to management. So we still prefer you let us move the deadline, but if that won't work, then here's what we can do. We'll go to a 3-pass process. Here are the risks you have to agree to take on, because here's the risks that are going to come with this. There's a reason it's a 4-pass process in the first place, and you have to agree to these risks. And that's what we did. And it ended up being successful.